Hi, I'm Thomas, and in this video, I will be discussing about a common theme between four historical ancient Chinese philosophers. The first one will be Kongzi, or commonly known as Confucius, and the second one will be Mengzhi, commonly known as Mencius, and then the third one will be Laozi, and finally, the fourth one will be Chuangzi. After identifying a common theme among the four great thinkers, I will then be proceeding to identifying nuances, that is, subtle differences or variations with regards to the selected common theme. Personally, I decided to discuss each of the four great thinkers' concept of reality, as I was at the least intrigued by their views on nature, on heaven, on dreams, or on reality in general. Let me start with Confucius. The philosopher and his followers were not just exclusively concerned with reality per se, but also with spiritual reality, or something which transcends our natural idea or concept of what reality is. Particularly, Confucius and his followers, as known in the philosophy of Confucianism, is concerned with two terms, the Tao and the Tian. Tao and Tian. In Confucian teaching, these two terms, the Tao and the Tian, refer to non-personal realities that are equivalent, respectively. First, to an eternal, primordial or cosmic law, which is the Tao, and the source of that law, which is heaven, or in Chinese language, Tian. But one important thing to consider is that the Confucian texts emphasize what is immanent rather than transcendent aspects of the Tao. But this does not imply that Confucius denies the transcendent qualities of the Tao. Accordingly, Confucius observed that the Tao is very close to human beings, and therefore knowable and understandable. All this means that the Confucian concept of reality starts with the actual, starts with what is real, then slowly climbing up the ladder and going up to transcendent, to the spiritual realm, or to the spiritual reality. I move on to the next philosopher, and hopefully you understand what I talked about Confucius. No, I will quote him with the words, "If I don't know life, then how can I know death?" Now I will be moving on to the next philosopher, who is called Mengzhi, or his Latinized name is Mencius. So in this video, I'll just refer to him as Mencius, so it would be easier to pronounce. For everyone's concern, Mencius is considered as a follower of Confucius. He was often compared to Plato, who was a student of Socrates, because of his idealistic tendencies. But he received his education from Chuangzi, who was then the grandson of Confucius. Now, with regards to the concept of reality of Mencius, it did not exactly differ much from the Confucianism concept of reality. That is what I discussed beforehand. Especially, we must consider that Mencius only derived from what was passed on to him by the followers or disciples of Confucius. So what he had back then was a handed down version of Confucian texts or doctrines, no? And what he did was to expound that philosophy, and that is what made Mencius popular, kind of. For Mencius, it is very clear to him that the mandate, the law of heaven, the Zhao and the Tian refers to two exact things. The first one is an internal moral guide that can be naturally cultivated by man's natural goodness. So, according to Mencius, the Tian and the Zhao is already imprinted on our hearts because we humans have the capacity for goodness. We humans have the capacity for doing what is morally good. The second one is more communal, no? In the sense that it is part of the culture of a society wherein the people in a society may quite possibly overthrow an unjust ruler. So it's like the conscience of the masses. So yes, it is perfectly clear for Mencius that the Tao and the Tian, the spiritual reality, has some personal as well as communal aspects to it. Allow me to impart with you words of Mencius. The man who exercises mind and heart to the utmost extent knows his nature, and by knowing nature, he knows heaven. Now I will be discussing Lao Tzu's concept of reality. The old man, Lao Tzu, who was no less than a philosopher and a mythical figure, left us his philosophy in the form of a book, the Tao Te Ching. In particular, Lao Tzu's philosophy advocates naturalness, spontaneity, and freedom from social conventions and desires. For Confucius, the Tao is the moral way, but for Lao Tzu, the Tao assumes a metaphysical meaning. The Tao assumes a metaphysical meaning, an all-embracing principle responsible for the coming to being of the universe. In a nutshell, it is kind of like the logos of the Greeks, the higher reason or plan implicit in the cosmos, ordering it and giving form and meaning. Lao Tzu instructs us beautifully how to live a pleasant life in the here and now without causing ourselves needless suffering by worrying about our past or future. When it comes down to it, reality is never more accessible than it is right now. This is where we live, in the now. There is no direct route to the truth. All that matters is that we see through the fictitious facade of the rest of the world, and then everything becomes crystal clear. I'll quote the legend Lao Tzu himself so as to end my discussion about this concept of reality. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Last but not the least is the philosopher Chuangzi, who was known as a follower of the legend Lao Tzu, and Chuangzi was most famous for his dream, the butterfly. Chuangzi's concept of reality is deep. I use the word deep in the sense that it differs greatly from the other three concept of realities I just discussed, no? According to scholars who studied the works of Chuangzi, the story about the butterfly is simply a device for raising doubts about attaching too much certainty on any particular account or aspect of reality. The main theme, of course, is about reality, and for Chuangzi, we do not just have to simply accept reality per se. According to Chuangzi, we are caught up in dreams because we do not allow ourselves to open up to the Tao. We do not allow ourselves to break free from our humanly created concerns and so apprehend all that is around us. What we need is an awakening to emerge from this dream state. Our daily perceptions of reality depend upon humanly created frameworks of knowledge that are rather like our dreams. And it is only when we give up those frameworks can we really be truly awake. That's one video. See you next time.